So when you first open up Ableton, it can be extremely overwhelming, and most people learn by just doing. So in this video, I'm going to give you a no-nonsense tutorial as a beginner to make your first house track. Let's get into it. So what we need to start with is the heartbeat of the song. A house song is 1, 2, 3, 4. And the thing that we dance to in a club when we're two-stepping away, that is the kick. Boom, 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 boom. That hits on every beat. So it makes sense to start with the heartbeat of the song and start with the kick. So I'm going to go and drag out my kick rack here. Now, let me explain a little bit here. There's a link in the description. And over the years, I've been obviously collecting a lot of samples. All of my best kicks, claps, and open hats are in a free link in the description. So you can go ahead and download them today and use exactly the same samples as what I'm using here. So once you download that, it will look a little something like this. To actually get these into the project, you see, kick, claps, and open hats, what we need to do first is drag out something called a drum rack. What a drum rack is it's a way to collect all of your samples into one device. So it keeps them nice and neat and organized. So I'm going to go over here, go over to kicks, and you can see these are all just like MP3 files. I'm going to click the top one, shift click the bottom one, and drag them all into this drum rack. You can see there's a hell of a lot, so it will take some time. I want you to do that on the first track, then do Command Shift T and insert another drum rack on the next one, and that will be claps. So do exactly the same with the claps and do exactly the same with the hats. Okay, I already have that. So we'll go ahead. If I press right click here and rename, just to keep it organized, I'm going to call this kick. We're going to go and get a kick in. So right now we've got these kicks at the bottom in a drum rack. If I click this play button here, you see it plays them. Now what we need to do is go and tell Ableton, where do we want the kick? So I'm going to highlight the area, and I've gone all the way up to 5 there. I'm going to do Command Shift M, and that's going to insert what we call a MIDI clip. This, as you can see on the left hand side, has opened up the piano roll. This is where we select things. So I'm going to go ahead, right click on the grid and change my grid to 160. Just out of habit, you should do that when you're writing house music. Right click, 1/16th. So I want you to go ahead and click any of the kicks and put it on the first square. You can see where it goes dark gray, light gray, dark gray, light gray, dark gray, light gray. Well, they're individual beats, so we want one kick on every beat. So I'm just going to draw it all the way to the 1.2 at the top here and then do Command D. That is going to duplicate. Now, I'm saying the shortcuts out loud because once you start getting used to the shortcuts, it's going to cut your time of production in half by being able to just navigate using your keyboard. So we have a kick and that sounds like this. I don't like that kick, so I'm going to go for this kick number 3. One of my favorite kicks ever, this one. So I'm going to leave it as it is. If I play that, it hits every single beat. Now we're going to go and do the same with the clap. So I'm going to click the top here. We can do right click, insert new MIDI track. But for speed, what we can do is Command Shift T, and that's going to insert a MIDI track for us. I'm then going to highlight the area, do exactly the same again, Command Shift M for MIDI clip. If you're on PC, by the way, that would be Control Shift M. And then I'm going to go and select. Right now, nothing is going to happen because if we look down here where it says drop an instrument or sample here, there is nothing right now in there for us to play on this piano. So we're going to go and select what we want to play. In your case, you might have already dragged in your claps. I'm going to drag it over and drag it onto the bottom here. And you can see now I have the claps. Let's not go into too much detail. Let's just go and put a clap. Right click, 1/16. Make sure you're still on 16ths. And at the top here, we want a clap on every 1.2, 1.4, 2.2, 2.4, so on and so forth. For speed, what we can do is once you get to the second bar, you see this says 1, 2, 3. So the whole number, we can drag all the way from that and do Command D to duplicate. Much quicker, kind of like copy and pasting. Well, it is copy and pasting. So let's go. Let's hear that. minimize each track like that, and we're going to do exactly the same with the open hat. So Command Shift T, or we can right click on the channel before and insert MIDI track, highlight the area, Command Shift M for MIDI clip, and we're going to go and get what I want on here, which is going to be my open hat. I'm going to double click back into the MIDI clip, and I'm going to go and place one. Now these go in the middle of every beat. So the kick went on the first hit, didn't it? The clap went on every 1.2 and 1.4. The open hat goes on the middle of every beat on the 1.13, the 1.23, the 1.33, so on and so forth. I'm going to highlight this all the way back to the beginning. Notice this blue bar at the top. That's what you're highlighting, or the distance you're highlighting, and do Command D. Should look a little something like this. Now, you will have heard a beat like this thousands of times before if you like house music. Watch. Now, what I keep adjusting over on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, sorry, is the volume of the track. This is to make it louder or quieter. So I'm just going to go until it sounds natural to me. Now, something a little bit advanced, but it's key. I need to change it right now, so I might as well, is this solo button. As you can hear when I press play, everything's playing together. I can solo individual tracks. So if there's something that I need to change on that individual track, I can independently listen to that so I can really tune into it. So I'm going to click solo button. And if we look at this meter over here, you can see that it's left-hand side dominant. There's two kind of green bars happening here. One is the left ear and one is the right ear. Now, I don't want this to be on the left-hand side of my head, which it is right now. So I can use this panning knob here. See, it says 3R. I'm going to push it back over to the middle. So when these two green bars meet and they're both playing the same volume, I know we're in the center of the track now. We're in the middle of the track. Both ears have the same volume, essentially. Watch, if I go all the way to the left, it's only on one ear, all the way to the right, only on the right ear. So I think this was at about 8. There we go. That will do for me. Now I can press this solo button again. Okay, continuing on. With this open hat, in the genre of music I make, we don't want a hat. If I solo this, that is too long, like so. So I'm going to shorten it. The way I can shorten that is find the hat in here. You will see it flashing orange. So it's all the way down here. And you see, this one is the one that's playing because it's got this yellow button in it. I click on it, and I'm going to make it shorter by moving this. Now you can hear that's made it very kind of abrupt and sharp. If I play with that with the track, it doesn't sound very human. Very robotic. So to solve that, instead, I'm going to put this fade out up, and that's just much more natural sounding, okay? The length of sounds in music is extremely important, and that's why I've shortened that. We can make things shorter, we can't make things longer when we're using. These are all samples, remember the MP3. We can't make them longer, but we can make them shorter. So, continuing on, we have what I call the big three here, the kick, clap, and open hat. This is very basic. Without these three elements, it isn't really a house beat. Now, I could make the track faster if I want. Those of you that DJ know that there's BPM on songs over here, and it just means how fast a song plays. So I can go all the way down, or go fucking mental with it like that. But let's go to about, I make music about 128, which is kind of, let's go 129. All right, so a few more things that we need to do here. You can hear this is very amateur sounding, very basic. We need to fill out the gaps between every hit right now. There's a gap. So I'm going to go ahead and fill them in with something called a closed hat. Essentially, what a closed hat is on a drummer's hi-hat, he has a pedal on the floor. When he presses the pedal, the hi-hat opens and it makes this sound. But when he closes the cymbals together, it makes more of a closed sound like that. So that's the difference. Okay. So what I'm going to do actually is duplicate my open hat channel. And we're going to call that closed hat. The way I duplicate it is by pressing the open hat channel and pressing Command D to duplicate. So closed hat. What I'm going to do on this closed hat channel is take this. Oh, you can see I'm soloing the open hat instead of the closed. I want to solo the closed and make it short. Might move the start time. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is go into this. I'm going to delete the placement of it because that's where I had the open hat. And I'm going to put a hat on every single possible place. So if your grid's on 1/16th, that means that we're putting a hat on every single 16th note. Okay, go back here, highlight it, duplicate over, and play that with the trap. I'm going to lower it down so it's subtle. Yours might sound a little bit different to mine because I have something called swing on. I'm not going to go into the dark depths of swing today, but swing is essentially taking it from sounding robotic to a bit groovier. Gives a galloping feeling, which is giving groove. That's where groove comes from in house music. So to actually apply some swing, like I say, I'm not going to go into it. To apply it though quickly, we can press this little button up here. We can go up into what's called the groove section over here. And what you want to be looking for is anything that says 60ths and then a number after it. The number at the end is basically how much swing we want. So right now, let's go for a low swing, 61, or a medium swing, should I say. And just leave it galloping. Now, when a drummer, every time we're making house music, we're trying to emulate, we're trying to make it sound like the drummer is actually live playing the sound. So we want to make it sound like a drum kit a little bit. Now, a drummer is never ever going to hit the cymbal as hard every single time, is he? And what I'm talking about the how hard he hits the cymbal is called the velocity. Well, you can find the velocity. If it doesn't look like mine, you can press this little button in the bottom left here. You can find it at the bottom here. And every single, where this blue line is, that means how hard the drummer is hitting the drum. So if I take some of these and I lower this one, I make this one up, I put this one down here, that means it's how hard he's hitting it. And what will happen is, if he's got a drumstick and he's hitting the drum lightly, it's going to be very quiet. If he hits it as hard as he can, it's going to be very loud. And that's what we're emulating here. So you get this kind of weird in and out feeling. But for speed, I can just revert back what I just did by pressing Command Z, probably the most useful tool in shortcuts, Command Z to delete something. I'm going to let Ableton do the hard and heavy lifting work for me by clicking on the open hat so everything gets highlighted. And then I'm going to chase this first randomization. And you can see it's changed randomly all the velocities. It's kind of coming in and out. And that's going to bring, again, some groove to the project. So let's hear it again. Nice. Moving on. So now that we have a kick, clap, open hat, closed hat, I can go ahead and start leaning on some pre-made samples. I use some software called Splice. And what this does is it is a sample library meaning producers have made kind of loops and things for us that we can use in our road tracks. And what this allows us to do is add a bit of speed into the creation process. I think as a beginner, it's important to know where things go and how to place things. But if you're looking for a bit of speed and efficiency just to get your first basic beat down, I would rely on some loops. Now, when you open up Splice, it is a subscription service, but it is very, very cheap. And you get credits, as you can see at the top here. I got 402 credits, meaning I can download 402 samples. But I can go in here and browse. So I can go genres. I can go, let's go deep house, for example. I can go into loops. And at the moment, I'm just trying to look for something to bring some groove, to get my head moving, to make it sound a little bit professional. And I'm going to start scrolling through. I'm going to filter on drums. I'm going to look for something that suits my style. Okay, this is nice. All right, it has a cool groove to it. I'm going to drag that into the project. The way we get it in the project is simply just dragging it and dropping it. You can see that's put in what we call an audio track. What an audio track is simply, it's just going to play the audio back as it was within the sample pack. Super simple. It's just like an MP3 that it's playing back. But if I put that now with my track, without it, with it. Now, the actual name for this is called top loops. So I'm going to lower it down so that my drums are the main drums in the project. And I just want the main things. I'm going to duplicate this sample now by pressing Command D, so it's the same length as what my loop was. Let's close this over a bit. Okay, let's play it back. Very, very simple stuff. So I can name this now if I press Command R, top loop. And that is the basics of a drum groove. The very, very basics of a drum groove. At this point, you should have something that sounds relatively good or relatively close to what you want to make. But let's get into the hard part. Let's start using an instrument to design some sounds on our own. Everything we've used so far are what are called samples. They're pre-made for us. As the producer, our job is just to get ones that sound very good together. Now we want to start creating something ourselves from scratch and using that creative brain of yours to create a melody. So I'm going to insert a MIDI track. And I'm going to go and grab an instrument. Exactly the same as like a guitar or a piano or something like that. But we're going to use something that's going to bring some sound for us or generate a sound. So I'm going to search for, I think it's a good idea at this point, at the stage that you're at, if you're a beginner, to use some presets. What that means is we've got an instrument that generates sound, but someone's already kind of made the sound for us. Let me explain what that means. If I pulled out, let's go to instruments in here. And you could scroll through and try different things, but what we could find is there's something in here called guitar bass. And it's just a guitar string being played. So I'm going to drag it onto the channel. And this is an instrument. Again, there's a hell of a lot of dials, very confusing, but in time you will learn what they do. I'm going to go Command Shift M to insert a MIDI clip. I'm going to close down this velocity thing at the bottom now, and you'll see something happens now very different to what happened with the samples. When we were using samples and the drum rack earlier, every time we click a different key, it's playing a completely different sound. However, with this one, it's playing the same sound at different pitches. So that means if I scroll down now and go into the deeper tones, you'll hear we have what starts resembling a bass line. Now again, make sure your grid is on 1/16. Let's start talking about writing a bass line. It's very easy if you allow it to be easy. When you start getting overcomplicated, when you start comparing yourself to others, that's when you start making things more difficult for yourself. And that's when things start turning out not as you intended. So in every beat, you see, if I zoom out, it's dark gray, light gray, dark gray, light gray there, each beat. Now, a few rules when you're writing a bass line. I don't want to see any notes overlapping from one beat into the next, from the dark gray to the light gray. Let's keep it simple for now. So, a good place to start with a bass line is where the open hat sits on the first beat. Okay, and for this, we can loop over just that section. If I highlight this little area up until the second bar and press Command L, you can see it's populated a loop. So if I extend this loop, you see, it extends on the page as well, on the arrangement view page as well. So what that means is we're going to loop over one bar. and I play it once through like that to see, does that note work? Absolutely. Very, very simple. Now, top tip for you. When you get a sound that sounds good, you can hear that that sounded good and the key that we were playing was C. So that means if I go into the scale of C, again, I'm not going to go deep into what scales are and things like that in this video, I will in future. But if I now select the scale of C, meaning that any note I play on the grid is going to sound musically correct, then we're off to the races. We're off to a good start. It's super easy from that point. So I'm going to go over here in Ableton and you can see this little scale button. I need to turn this on and I need to select C minor. Why C minor? Well, because we know that the C key sounded sonically nice. It sounded all right. Let's go up a bit. That G isn't giving me the same vibe, so back down to C. But if the G worked really well, I would select G minor instead. So C minor is the scale. A scale, I'll give you a brief overview. A scale is a group of keys that sonically work well together. All music that you listen to will be within a certain scale. So the song will be written within a certain scale. And again, it just means all of the keys that work well together. Now, you'll notice when this was turned off, none of the keys are purple or pink. When I turn this on, some of the keys become pink. What does that mean? Well, they're basically the keys that we can use to write a bass line, and anything that doesn't have pink on, we have to avoid. If we don't avoid, it will be what's called out of key and it will just sound odd. Okay. So a nice technique here is to highlight scale. And then that just highlights all of the keys we can use. Or another technique is we can press the scale button at the top. And now any key in here we can use because it basically got rid of all the keys that we can't use. But I'm going to leave that scale function off and just start clicking about. So we went for a note here. We're just going to click about. Not bad. It works right. So let's get a very basic beat down first, or a very basic bass line. Now this is the kind of bass line I hear this so often with beginners. What's happened here is we don't have any variation in the bass. We don't have any what we call syncopation. If I simply just take one of these notes and move it left or right, so we've got this basic rhythm down, I move it left or right. See how that sounds way more pleasing. I could have done it here too. But whenever you put one here, I'm probably going to need another one there. Okay, so let's do that again. Let's get a basic one down first. So let's go up to this C. Whenever we've got a C here, we know the C up here will work too. I'm just going to keep working through. You see what I'm doing here? I'm just going beat to beat, click in and try. Let's go with that for now. Okay, so once we've got this, you notice every single note is the same length. It's the same size. We don't want that. Again, bass lines, it's all about contrast in house music. You need a bass line, some to be long, some to be short, some to be high, some to be low, some to be syncopated, some non-syncopated. Again, a word that I will go into, but let's extend this note. Again, I don't want to cross over into the next B. Okay, so I'm just going to extend it to there. Let's extend this one and let's extend this one. Let's make this one shorter. Okay, we can't extend this. We can't extend this into the next beat, but what we can do is make it hit again. Let's go with that. Okay, So right now, this guitar bass, the only thing I want to change with it is see this frequency knob here. I'm going to simply take it and turn it down a bit, and you'll see this will make the bass line sound a bit deeper. Okay, now it's going to get very repetitive and boring that, because what is happening is we looped over one bar. I want to give it variation over 2 bars. So I'm going to extend the loop now. I'm going to take what I did. I'm going to press Command D to duplicate over. And I'm simply going to change something in this last beat here to make it sound different to the first beat. Watch. Or we could just move that one over. Just trying things, moving it up and down, left and right. That'll do for me. So we could do the same again now. We could take this bass line. We could extend this now to the end of the fourth bar, like so. Right? We can take everything we just did, duplicate it like that, so it's playing exactly the same, and then give a variation somewhere within this last bar, so between here and here. And it's going to make it sound much more interesting. Opa. Let's go with that. Why not? Okay. So we just need to get the volume sitting right to my taste. Now, the next thing on this track that we would need to do is start adding some melodic elements, some musical elements to take this from just a beat and bass into something that resembles a song. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can watch this video here next.